good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are, where you're joining us from today. I am Julius E. Jefferson, Jr. I am ALA President, and today we are at the Nevada State Library in Carson City for Learn and Earn. Nevada Libraries Harness Virtual 3D for Education and Careers. We are looking forward to today's conversation about a unique approach to workforce development that is fueled by a strong network of partnerships and the support of policymakers, as you will hear from our panelists. So speaking of policymakers, we're going to start today's event with the video messages from some of those policymakers that could not be with us today. So roll the video.
Hello, I'm your Congresswoman, Dina Titus, and I have the honor of representing the heart of the Las Vegas Valley. This pandemic has truly upended every facet of society, and our public education spaces are sadly no exception. As a UNLV professor for over 3 decades, I'm not surprised at all that the Nevada State Library, Nevada librarians, and the College of Southern Nevada have stepped up to meet the challenge. You are leveraging new technology to create an educational experience that is the first of its kind. So thank you for your inspiring commitment to this exciting new project, and don't hesitate to call on me if I can be helpful.
Hello, I'm U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto from the great state of Nevada. I am so glad to join the American Library Association's virtual forum to recognize the innovative work libraries in Nevada are doing to provide solutions to some of the challenges our libraries are facing during this pandemic. From increasing students' internet connectivity to investing in 3D printing to build personal protective equipment for frontline providers, I'm thankful for everything you're doing to get our communities through this challenging time. It's why I call Nevada the innovation state. In Nevada, I am proud to celebrate Nevada State Library's 3D immersive learning. This patient care technician program at the College of Southern Nevada offers groundbreaking virtual reality simulations to meet the workforce needs of our healthcare industry. And thank you to our fabulous state librarians, Dr. Tod Colegrove, Tammy Westergard, and CSN President, Dr. Zaragoza, for leading this program. I am encouraged that this project will help lead the way for other innovative workforce solutions to help support communities across the nation. And before I go, I want to give a special thank you to Nevada's information professionals from the public, academic, school, and special research libraries. You are all doing so much to help the Silver State receive and keep Nevadans informed. I look forward to seeing the new ideas that come from this event. Please know, I was proud that we could provide aid to libraries in the CARES Act, and that I am advocating for additional support so that you can be ready to open once we have a vaccine.
All right. Thank you so much to Representative Titus and Senator Cortez Masto. Clearly, Nevada libraries have made an impression, particularly with the innovative project that we'll discuss today. So let's go to it. I want to welcome our panelists and thank each of you for being a part of this conversation today. We'll start with Senator Mo Dennis, District 2, located in Clark County, Nevada. Mark Anderson, co-founder and president of Life Leak. Dr. Tod Colegrove, director of Carson City Library and former state librarian. Karsen Heise, director of strategic programs in Nevada's Governor's Office of Economic Development and a board member, Nevada State Council on Libraries and Literacy. Sue Holligan-Folds, retired coordinator and strategic advisor, Department of Workforce and Economic Development at the College of Southern Nevada. Sara Jones, president of the Khalifa Group and the director of the Marin County Free Library. Forrest Lewis, president of the Nevada Library Association and director of the North Las Vegas Library District. Jeff Scott, director of Washoe County Library System. Tammy Westergard, Nevada State Librarian. And Natasha Dackota York, a student at College of Southern Nevada and a library assistant at McDermott Branch Library in Humboldt County. I understand that we have additional project partners joining us in the audience today. So thank you all and welcome. I will give a special shout out because I think I saw one of the ALA treasurer out there somewhere. So hello, ALA treasurer. We'll keep it moving, but I wanted to just give a quick shout out. So everyone, wow, this is a big group and I want to get everyone in. I want to thank you again for being here. Let's give a project overview. And I'm going to start with our state librarian. So having learned about Nevada Career Explorer, I still be hard pressed to explain all the pieces and all the players. So Tammy, can you kick us off with some background about the state library, the project, and what makes this workforce development program so unique?
I'm happy to. Hi, everybody. Tammy Westergard from Carson City in the great state of Nevada. And one of the things that makes this project so unique is that it is essentially it's a job coach on steroids. We have a career information database that's powered by a company and one of our partners on the call called Headed To. And in Nevada, it's called the Nevada Career Explorer. And essentially, it is a system by which individuals can explore in-demand occupations in the state of Nevada using 360-degree video, STEM virtual reality, and data analysis modules to really get a sense of what any STEM occupation might look like. And as we know, Julius, the majority of living wage jobs in America and certainly in Nevada exist with skills and abilities after a high school diploma and before even a 2-year degree, and they exist in STEM fields. And one of the things that's so exciting about this is we piloted this proof of concept with the College of Southern Nevada in their dialysis technician program. We had no way of knowing at the time how relevant healthcare, which is a STEM occupation, would be in the current situation that we're facing with COVID and trying to recover our workforce in healthcare fields. So the key elements of the innovation really do consist of having 3D tools, virtual reality, 360-degree video, embedded within this dynamic, what I like to call a match.com for job seekers and employers. And the ability then to go on your first date, if you will, go on a 360 video, check it all out. If you want to go have coffee after that, then we go into the virtual reality experience and you can be immersed in a dialysis clinic and really get a sense of what it is to perform various job tasks. And oftentimes it's good to know what you don't want to do as much as it is what you do want to do, because we can be attracted to jobs that pay the kinds of salaries that we need. And we might find out that dialysis actually has a lot to do with blood. And if we don't like blood, it's really good to know that up front. But if it doesn't bother us, then we get an opportunity to move forward and with confidence embrace a program like what the College of Southern Nevada has using these digital assets. Because once a person makes a decision about where they're going, then all of these things pivot and become what I like to call homework help. And it's incredible homework help. We know how difficult it has been to learn online. That's one of the things that the pandemic has really illustrated, is the difficulty of learning online and finding resources that can help really drive understanding of especially STEM concepts. And I know that our partner, Mark Anderson from Lifelike, will talk about that later, but suffice it to say, it's tough to learn science in 2D. So 3D tools really help. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to turn to technology and funding. And before we talk about what the project looks like on the ground, I want to turn to Dr. Colegrove, Tod, and Senator Dennis to talk about how you brought virtual reality to Nevada libraries and specifically to this project. So Tod, I understand that you're a longtime champion of using VR in libraries.
Thank you, Julius. You're right, but when you're talking about science, it's not rocket science. When you're talking about VR in libraries and what it has to do with learning, we learn what we do, right? So rather than just being a spectator, looking at pictures or reading words in a page and trying to reconstruct the image in our mind, 3D VR can actually put you inside of an experience. I mean, for example, here in Nevada, Churchill County is working on a project where they're capturing in VR Hidden Cave. It's an archaeological treasure trove and a treasure of the state. What if school kids can immerse themselves in that in a way that they could never if they went to the site in person? Just as we're about to talk about with the dialysis technician, homework help. What if you can embed yourself in it and really understand, really grok, if I can use that word amongst my fellow library folks, on a super deep level, how this all works? Isn't that the kind of learning that we want our kids to be doing? So what we're really talking about is leveraging, or asking the question, what if we could leverage this technology to really enable that learning on a deeper level? And as the state librarian, I got to work with this team to pull together this project amongst others, and we were able to get virtual reality tech out into the hands of public libraries across the state and see where that goes. So I'm just going to step aside because it's really Senator Dennis who did the driving in terms of getting that funding. And I hope that answers the questions.
Oh, absolutely. And Senator Dennis, you were the champion who, as Todd just said, secured the funding, the earliest VR in Nevada's library. So thank you so much for that. But how did this land on your radar?
So, you know, I'm a former, I guess you're always a trustee, but I'm a former trustee, library trustee, and I spent my career in technology. And so I kind of understand this stuff. And usually in the legislature, if people don't understand it, it's really hard to get anything funded. And so you've got to have really have to have a champion that can explain to other people what's going on. Fortunately, out of the 63 legislators between the Assembly and the Senate, there's not very many tech guys, and so people usually look to me for these kinds of issues, so you know, and I knew, having worked on some other projects, how important technology is. It's so funny because I was just thinking about this as we were talking. When I was a library trustee, and this was like 17 years ago, just before I was in the legislature, I remember one of the state senators in one of the meetings, they were talking about library funding, and I remember her saying, well, we don't need to fund libraries anymore because we have the internet. And you know, libraries are so important now, and we've been able to make the case to our legislators here and to the governor how important libraries are to make sure that we've got funding. And you know, these kinds of projects are kind of an equalizer for our communities. And I represent an older part of Las Vegas, lower income, and so having the opportunity to have these kinds of projects that help them to not only to just upgrade their job, but to be able to do it in a way that they could just go into the library and kind of try it out, and without having to spend a lot of money that they don't already have. And so, you know, it's tough sometimes. We've been fortunate that we've had a great economy for since the Great Recession. We recovered really well, and now we've got this other situation, and hopefully we can recover quickly on this too. But this is the kind of thing that we, you know, would be looking for to fund. That's, you know, the dollars that you put in really come up with results that's going to help people, especially as we come out of this recovery.
No, thank you. And just to get a better understanding, I want to bring Forrest in here, because for me, as I'm sure for others, what will really help us understand this whole program is to hear about how it's been implemented. So Forrest, can you tell us about what happens when someone comes into the library with questions about job career options?
Excellent. Thanks, Julius. Yeah, you know, interesting, just kind of give a little history of how we looked at libraries, especially coming out of the Great Recession. And when we saw such a great need in our community, and we were getting, you know, we see a lot of our patrons, especially we have a large lower income community where I work in, and we have a lot of people that are kind of in that in-between state. And they come in, they want a job, they want to better in their career, but they really don't know the steps to get there. And so we formed early. We started really looking at partnerships. Down south, a lot of the library districts in Southern Nevada, we partnered with Nevada Workforce Connections. We have one-stop career centers with career counselors, and we have those in our libraries, so we have that help. But what we really knew right off the bat is what makes libraries unique is that we have librarians, we have the reference, we're able to ask those questions, we're able to figure out what people need. And you know, from my perspective, and a lot of my colleagues when we looked at that, is what is unique about a partnership with public libraries as opposed to, you know, just a space to house a one-stop career center in that area. And that was the personal touch. And what I really appreciate is with partnership, Todd and Tammy at the State Library, they saw this right away. Our other library districts, Las Vegas, Stark County, Henderson, Washoe, you know, we all looked at this. And that's where the idea of the Nevada Career Explorer came from. So now, when we have somebody that comes in like that, and we don't know, I mean, it could be that they're asking for a job, but they may need a place to stay that night. They don't, you know, so we analyze the situation. If they need immediate care services or something beyond what we can do, we will refer them to the Career Center. We'll look at different agencies that can help them. If they are in a lot of cases where they're just looking for something better in their life, they're looking for a better job, a career choice, then we have these great tools. And the first thing that we do, we'd sit down with the Nevada Career Explorer. It's got these incredible self-assessment tools. It looks at budgets, you know, I mean, we love that even for the younger kids. It's like, you can figure out, okay, I want this style of living. How much money do I need to make? You know, and when you do that, what jobs are available that make that money? And a lot of, you know, especially with the students and things, their expectations are completely unrealistic. And when you start showing them, what we can do is then once we start narrowing down, and our librarians can sit down with them and work with them, we can start building a picture of where their talents are, where their passions are. And then we can start figuring out ways that, you know, careers options. And one thing I love about Nevada Career Explorer is it's very, it has the data and it's unique to Nevada. And we can go in and see, I mean, you may live down the southern part of Nevada in Las Vegas, and your passion that you think you want to go into, there may be no jobs here, but there may be a lot of jobs up in Reno. We can look at those areas. So, you know, and unique to this kind of experience that we're talking about today is if we find out through the course that, you know, somebody loves working in the medical field, as Tammy mentioned, they don't mind seeing blood or, you know, things like that. And they're not squeamish in that, you know, it may be that this dialysis technician certification is the perfect job for them. What's great about that is then we have the tools, we have the virtual reality equipment. We can actually step them aside and say, hey, let's take you know, there's a video that's like a day in the life that you can, of a dialysis technician. They can see for themselves if that is something that they might be interested. And from there, we can actually refer them to the College of Southern Nevada, different programs, whatever they're interested in. So the librarians play an integral role in that, and having the tools available to us to help those our patrons that are just really looking for that is invaluable. So that's what we're really excited about this program, and you know, we're just really excited to see where it can go from here.
Thank you, Forrest. And I want to bring Sue in here because Sue, once Forrest with the library has referred someone to you for this program, can you tell us what happens?
Absolutely. The clients are brought in to an orientation program. Right now, there's an online opportunity as well as a live opportunity to get information about the program. It is about an hour long. I go through and I tell them, define what the role is, as well as the movie they've seen. I go through and tell them what the minimum requirements are, which is health insurance and high school diploma or equivalency of. And then we go into the requirements over and above those prerequisites. There's a series of immunizations, a physical, several other things, CPR, things that have to be done prior to the start of the program, or should be. Once in a while, we get involved and we have to carry those requirements into about the first 2 weeks of the program. They, with the $7,900 cost, they receive their uniforms, their shoes, their textbook, their stethoscope. It's like starting kindergarten, to tell you the truth. It's just so exciting. And they also, of course, get all of their immunizations, so that their first day of class, they are ready to go. They wear their uniforms, and they start with 4 weeks of lecture. That can be live or online, again, depending upon COVID-19. The 5th week, they are brought in for clinical or lab application to work with the equipment that they're going to attach to a patient and monitor. They then are assigned, they're given a midterm exam, which they have to achieve 80% on. And then they're assigned to a clinical application. And they actually work full-time right now with DaVita. They do 36 hours a week for 6 weeks at least. At the end of that, assuming that they do well on their clinical performance, then they are given their final exam and they have to achieve 80% on that. Assuming that occurs, and we have a very high pass rate, they are then able to go and apply for jobs. If they excel in their performance, and many of them do, they're offered jobs before they ever even graduate from the program. And that's really exciting.
No.
They are also qualified at that point to take the national certification exam, which is a requirement within 18 months of their employment. And that national certification will go anywhere in the US.
No, that sounds like that's one heck of a process. And I understand, I want to bring Natasha in here because Natasha, I understand that you work in a library and you complete the program. So congratulations, because it sounds very rigorous. And you
It is.
So tell me how you guys-
Can I also say something that's very exciting? I have so much to say about it. I'm sorry, and I don't want to take up all your time.
No.
But with the library support and the development of the 2 most difficult chapters in the textbook, we have been able to provide a modified IBEST model, which of course is very popular now, you know, throughout education. And it has certainly proved to be very helpful for those students.
Thank you. So we'll bring Natasha in here. And Natasha, tell us how you got enrolled in the program.
So summer 2019, Mark and Tammy showed up at McDermott Library, and it kind of seemed like it was out of the blue, but my supervisor, Martika, told us about her vision for the library, and I guess it kind of sparked their interest. So they talked to us about what they do as far as partnerships and programs and grants. And so we kind of ended up diving in head first. Martika attended a conference about a week later. And then after that conference, we ended up with a gaming computer and a Vive and an Oculus. And next thing you know, Tammy approaches us about a dialysis technician course through the College of Southern Nevada that would implement VR. And that kind of intrigued me. So then Tammy got me acquainted with Sue, Cody, and Hilda at the college. And then I started my paperwork process. And that was that.
I'm just going to say I'm a big fan of Oculus, just so you all know. Big VR fan. Sorry, I'm a geek. I love it. So Natasha, tell me, so what does that mean for you now?
Oh, well, so I am done with my classroom hours. And right now I'm doing my internship hours at DaVita. And so I'm happy to bring the experience of the classes and my training to our small community. We're like a majority Native American community, but it's really been challenging. It takes a lot of time, money, and dedication to do this program. So like right now I'm waking up at 3 a.m. to be out the door at 4 a.m. and at Davita by 5:30. And because Winnemucca is the nearest town and it's 74 miles away from us. So then I put in my 12-hour shift and I do my hour and 15-minute drive home, spend a couple hours with my kids. And then the next day I'm at the library at 7 a.m. But I've been able to kind of prove what I'm capable of, and I'll be able to show our community like it's possible with the assistance of the librarians, other programs, that they can do it too.
Wow, good for you, and thank you for putting in all the hard work. It's so needed right now. I want to, you mentioned partnerships, and I want to bring in Mark here because partnerships seems to be like a theme here, and it's also a theme that we're hearing so much about across our tour cross country. So, Mark, can you tell us about how you partner with the State Library, the virtual content?
For sure. Thank you, Julius. And thank you, Natasha, for putting all that into context from the student's perspective. That's your dedication is inspiring. What I would say, Julius, is that really everything that has been born here leapt from the imagination of Tammy and Sue Holligan-Folds. So these two women got together and just kind of combined visions of doing something extraordinary. And so now there was a whole team that was involved in this. There was support in a lot of places, but really this whole team that came together, it is the first learning experience that is digital like this, not only in the country, but to our knowledge in the world when it comes to dialysis tech training. And so what happened was that was something that started last year, and actually last year it was the economy was humming along really nicely, in most places. I'm not saying everywhere, but it was but where it was clearly what was in high demand was being a dialysis technician, and before COVID hit. And then what happened was, of course, now with COVID, so we have, just to put some numbers on this, over 30 million Americans currently on unemployment, which has just been devastating economically. We saw last quarter a 10% drop in the gross domestic product. And in April, Nevada had the highest unemployment in the country. And now that's come down. It's in the mid-teens now. But this is the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression of the 1930s, not even the far exceeding the Great Recession. And so what's happened is everything that the teams here on this call put together and other partners put together, being a dialysis technician now is actually it's going from high demand to acute demand. And because one of the things that COVID does is it actually, in some people, can specifically attack the kidneys. My brother was born with one working kidney, so God forbid he should get COVID. That could be catastrophic for my brother. So this is something that our family takes very personally. All the extraordinary work that Sue and her team has been doing for years now at CSN, and so they've been graduating these extraordinary students, like we're hearing from Natasha. And that's really giving opportunity to people where, if, as Sue was saying, if they have their high school diploma, then they can go ahead and they can enter CSN's dialysis tech program. To say a few words about just what we've created specifically is this is a dialysis simulation in virtual reality that Forrest and everyone else has been talking about so far. And what it does is it gives a feeling of immersion. Because of HIPAA privacy laws, it's impossible to go into a dialysis clinic to just walk in. You can't just walk into a hospital room and say, oh, don't mind me, I'm just checking this out I'm doing career exploration. But you can do that in virtual reality. It also gives a feeling of presence, of actually being there. And that's really important in virtual reality as well. And then additionally, we created not only our simulation in virtual reality that's used at CSN, but also in the libraries, thanks to Forrest in North Las Vegas and his team, and then also Natasha and Martika up in McDermott, 9 hours north of Vegas. So they're able, that's how they've been accessing it, and accessing it safely, because we've been using a COVID quarantine and safety procedures to keep it all safe. And this is the feedback we've gotten from the students, is that it's really been helping them visualize what they read in the textbook more effectively. Science is very abstract for a lot of students, and so they're able to visualize it, to experience it, and use both our virtual reality as well as our 3D models on our dialysis channel that we have on our Lifelike platform online.
Wow, that's very impressive. I want to bring in Sara now to talk about Khalifa's role in content for the program.
Sure. So I'm so glad to be here, and I feel like I have a bit of a dual residency with California and Nevada. I spent 25 years in my library career in Nevada running the Elko Lander Eureka system, the Carson City Library, and the State Library. Mo and I traveled almost every mile of Nevada doing trustee training. So thank you for letting me be here. It feels like home. But I'm here to talk about Khalifa. So obviously from the name Khalifa, some people are not, it sounds California centric, certainly with the name Khalifa, but you might be more familiar with Info People, which is a product of Khalifa. And actually Info People is really, I always think of the library ecosystem as if there's 1 degree of separation, it's crazy. You can almost never not find the connections. But Info People was born from Susan Hildreth's leadership, who most of you know that name. She's San Francisco, Seattle, the state librarian in California, and of course the IMLS director. So Info People is a platform to educate and support libraries and librarians across the whole country. So we have done a number of things, and we invite that platform for any use that it can be. We are also partnered with the Nevada State Library and Archives, and our partner with XR Libraries, XR Marin and John McLeod. We I don't know what the count is now, but something close to 1,000 of the Lifelike records are in WorldCat. And we, through the partnerships of the State Library and my library and Khalifa as a foundation, we put the first VR records in WorldCat. Period. Yay! So we see Khalifa. I think there's really important things about it. It is that content platform, the ability. I think libraries. I don't think it. I know it. We have to get in workforce in a totally different way, in the way that you are demonstrating here. It's not just about computers to apply for jobs anymore. We have to get very intense and intentional about this. So I completely applaud this work. The beginnings of all this was we really do need to also do a shout out to our state librarian, Greg Lucas, who I was actually talking about a failure of getting money for a VR grant, and with our partner New Media Learning that became XR Libraries, XR Marin, and he just said, I'd like to help. And that started with $35,000, and what are we 3-4 years later with the really there are 100 libraries in California that have VR and 2 sets of devices, Oculus and HTC Vive. And we've partnered deeply with Nevada, and Tammy and Mark and the whole crew that's here today has taken it to a level that I couldn't even imagine. So the partnerships absolutely matter. And I just want to tell everyone on the call that Khalifa is all of the work is important to us, but we are deeply committed to technological ways that we support libraries. Khalifa is the distributor and aggregator for the high-speed network in California for libraries called CNIC. So this is about making sure that people know that just because it said Khalifa, there are no state lines there. And we're so proud of this work and so proud of the fact that it's, for a lot of time, VR was just a fun experience, and to see it become something that's going to change people's life, Natasha, what you said was absolutely amazing. And then I will just close, and I don't think there's anybody on this phone that doesn't know this, but none of this is possible without LSTA, Library Services and Technology Act funding. And I think we never give the credit that's necessary there. The leverage that comes from that money is spectacular. And I hope, and I know Mo has been a tremendous supporter. We went through dark times when I was the state librarian there, where we were struggling to prove our maintenance of effort and all of those kind of things. But LSTA needs to be funded 10 times, and people will be breathtaking what we could do with that money. But the money that we do get, which is totally small in the scheme of things, is the leverage that matters. So if Khalifa can be of any help in the future, and we're just really, really proud of this partnership. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. But you know, it's not the same without the VR experience.
No.
So here's an opportunity for us to share a little bit of footage for our viewers. And I'm going to give the word, let the video roll.
So libraries have really entered, you know, the job development and workforce development recently, especially in the state of Nevada. And one of the things that Henderson Libraries, along with other libraries in Southern Nevada, do is have one-stop career centers in our libraries. And this really provides a great opportunity to kind of marry the two things. So people who are, you know, searching for jobs and needing to learn new skills with, you know, technology that allows them to access these educational components. And
career exploration through a SaaS database called the Nevada Career Explorer, combining 360 video, STEM virtual reality, and data analysis modules, creates a job coach on steroids. This program is vital to Nevada's dialysis providers, as 21% of our population is dealing with kidney disease at various stages. The ability to meet growing national demand for a highly skilled technical workforce is possible through this uniquely focused partnership. Introduction to the dialysis patient care technician profession through specialized 360 video and virtual reality experience to enhance understanding of the program requirements, competencies, and professional behavior will increase proficiency with the basic concepts and principles of dialysis, as well as the application of scientific principles through virtual reality experiences and computational thinking modules. Seamless recruitment through the Nevada Career Explorer and placement strategies will help put newly skilled workers in jobs quickly.
Perfect example is someone that might want to become that dialysis technician. They're not sure, they were never exposed to it, but they're able to turn around and get enrolled in a certificate program, and within 6 weeks become highly trained, productive, tax-paying citizens that are making a really good wage.
Our dialysis education simulation starts in the reception area of the dialysis clinic. The first thing the student must do is to sign in. Then they proceed to their patient, where they will be working with their preceptor, who will be using a learning matrix to teach them about various parts of the extracorporeal circuit, including pumps and the dialyzer. Students will also be able to see the inside of the clinic, which is impossible otherwise due to HIPAA privacy laws. They will also be able to go inside of the dialyzer, where they will see the red blood cells flowing and various waste products such as urea being removed.
When you're immersed in something, it becomes a memory. It doesn't become a memory about learning something, it becomes being inside of that learning.
That was so cool. I have to tell you, that was so cool. I saw so many familiar faces there. So thank you all. I was gonna go get my goggles. I said, let me go get my goggles for this, but I said, no. So even without goggles, it was still very amazing. So I wanna bring Jeff in here because Jeff, I understand that Washoe County Library partnered with a local high school to do career exploration. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this started with our library strategic plan that we completed in 2017. And one of the things that came out of that was the need for STEM education. We interviewed over 50 stakeholders in Washoe County, and the overwhelming need was for development in STEAM skills and to be able to get into UNR. So Dr. Colegrove was actually one of the people we interviewed at University of Nevada, Reno. He ran, at the time, the Delamere Library, which is one of the top maker libraries in the country. And so he said less than 1% of the local population can make it into the engineering program at UNR. So that was really alarming for us, because how are we going to get our kids and build their future if they can't get the education, they can't even get in the door at UNR. And so we started with maker services at downtown Reno and at Washoe County Library. Right before this grant got going, we already started experimenting with a VR system. We had Oculus Go's, and we had that first unveiled during a Grow with Google program that we had at the Nevada Museum of Art in August 2018. And so it really demonstrates the power of virtual reality when you start getting that introduced. So for us, it was a learning experience to see how patrons reacted to it. So we found that some of the introductory games to get used to virtual reality, in some cases, were too intense. So we had someone put on a headset, and it was a roller coaster, and they had to hold on to a chair while they were watching it because it was such an intense experience. And then I remember this one really distinctly. We had a mother and a young child, and he had put on the goggles and yelled out, "La Luna," so it was so immersive for him and so real for him that, it felt like it was there. And so the power of the new virtual reality is really great, because you can start introducing people to the concept. And I think people need a reintroduction to virtual reality in a lot of cases, because it is so advanced now than maybe you remember in some 90s movie. It's now really advanced, becomes very immersive. And one of the great things is having the Oculus Go is that it's portable. A lot of times you have virtual reality, you have to use a computer, you have to have a full setup, you need to really have an IT professional setting it up. With an Oculus Go, anyone can set up, because all you have are the goggles. You put on the goggles and you can get introduced to new concepts. So the first round we did outreaches, we went to the schools, we did educator nights, just introducing people to the virtual reality and what it can do. And so that really opened people's eyes and the possibility of what can happen. The next stages for that was introduce that into our makerspaces. So we recently opened the Quad August 2018 at the same time, and had HTC Vive and the Oculus Go's available. So now they can get introduced to all these concepts. The Reno area is a really big maker area. We have the generator, we have RTech, we're on the road to Burning Man. People are making stuff all the time. It's a really innovative part of Nevada. And we want to really be a part of that and help training people to do that. So introducing this in the first layer, really get people understanding like what it can do. The next step was getting into the schools and having it science-based. And so we wanted to enhance science education in the high schools. So John Crockett, who is our branch manager in Incline Village, has been the spearhead for this system-wide. And he started going into the schools and started to introduce it with Oculus Quest. So the Quest is great because with the Go, you're just getting the headset. When you get the Quest, now you have the hands. The hands are really the critical piece as you kind of started to build this bridge into this dialysis program, is that you have the hands and you have it mobile. So instead of having to set up this whole HTC Vive and needing all these professionals, any librarian can come in, put on the goggles, put on the hands, and ready to go. And so we're introducing these science concepts, these STEM concepts, and really starting to enhance the high school education so that they're ready for the STEM education and they're ready for applying for UNR and getting in there and ready for these kinds of programs. So it's building a great bridge to get to the next step, to get to these really advanced programs. So I'm really proud to be part of that, moving that forward. And we're hoping post-COVID that we can reinvest that program.
Jeff, I'm ready to go back to high school.
It's fun. It's fun. It's so fun.
I mean, I have my Oculus Quest, but I'm ready to go back and really learn, and maybe I'd have a new career, right?
There you go. Yeah, come on down. Come on down.
So I want to bring Tammy back in here because Tammy, what has this meant for you to support the advancement of career exploration among high school students or adults looking to upskill, and how have patrons or other partners responded to this resource?
Thank you, Julius. You know, the bottom line is when we're talking about helping people upskill or pivot from a job that they may have been doing for the last 5 years, I mean, I'm planning my next career to be a dialysis tech because, you know, it's a complicated economy. So I've been paying attention. And I really have looked at it, you know, through that lens. And Natasha is doing the same thing. She's a librarian, but she's also, you know, doubling down on a skill set. And I can tell you right now that before this project, before I learned about the emerging technology and the impact of learning STEM in 3D, I never would have imagined myself to have had any of the capacity necessary to learn what Sue teaches every day. I just wouldn't have thought myself to be able to do that. And you know what, Julius, I can learn this stuff. I have learned it. So if I can, anybody can. And that's the value. This is so powerful, and it's such an equalizer. When you combine the immersive qualities of this emerging technology, and look, I got my go right here. So when you combine that power with something that can be in my hand, and then I can be at home and I can study and I can practice. I mean, a lot of it is just being able to practice and study, you know, and this is just such an equalizer. It's somewhere between a magic wand and a magic bullet. I can't decide.
So, and what is that response from the patrons? What are you hearing?
We're hearing incredible things. People feel like it as I do, you know, that, wow, I did not really realize that when my blood is going through a dialyzer and it runs through a filter, and there's actually, the filter is made up of these micro strands, and they're perforated. They're not really perforated. Actually, it's semi-permeable membrane. See all this science talk I'm talking? It ekes out, and the toxins get taken away with the water, and the blood stays back in, and it's all clean, and it goes back in until I go back to the clinic and have my next dialysis run, and it keeps me alive, and I get it. So it's really powerful. It works. And I'm so honored to be a part of this, to help bring this to Nevadans, because the library is the front door for everybody. And so we can do this. And I know Karsten has perspective as well in terms of how, well, I'll let you talk about that, Julius.
We're going to bring him in, but Sue is beaming at listening to you talk about all this.
Oh my goodness. I just have to say something, Julius. There are two people in this transition that I have to mention. One is Hilda de Guzman. She is my lead instructor for this program and has been for the last 10 years. With her input, she worked with Mark and their group and their team to proof it and make sure it was accurate and correct. She also coordinates all of the instructors that do teach for us, as well as she teaches herself. So I can't thank her enough. And Cody Jackson. Cody is, and well, was, because now I'm retired, aren't I? But Cody was my right-hand man, and he took on Canvas and transitioned the materials to an online program through Canvas. And let me tell you, it has been hours of his time supporting these instructors in providing this material. So I just can't thank them enough.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Karsen's been over there waiting very patiently, and I love the bow tie, by the way. So I want to bring you in here because we've had a number of conversations about workforce development on this tour. But this pilot is quite unique from the other things we've seen and discussed, yet with a common thread that partnerships are the key to success. So what are your impressions of the project and its implications for workforce development in Nevada?
Yeah, thank you, Julius, and I really appreciate this question because it's a great question, and we have heard, you know, very much in-depth information about the program, how it relates, how the partners have been involved in it. Great, you know, public-private partnership, fantastic effort. But your question really gives me an opportunity to put it sort of in a larger perspective, to say, you know, bring in the big picture, so to speak. Because we need to, you know, really put it in the perspective of where we are currently. So as you heard from our congressional delegation, you know, they refer to it, we're in the midst of a major pandemic, and it's not normal times. You know, Mark already mentioned the unemployment numbers. You know, they're just drastic compared to history, even compared to the last financial crisis fallout that our state faced. So that's one thing. So that has an impact, obviously, on workforce development. But Also bear in mind that this is a major global pandemic, and you know, we have lots of librarians here on the call, so you know, take out your history books. You know, look up what in world history, what pandemics have caused, what the impact has been. And when you do that, you will find that they led to drastic and irreversible shifts in society and the economy. And they really culminated in new eras. So we are not going back to normal. And, you know, look at the history books, look up the Athens plague, you know, had a huge impact on the Athens democracy. On a more upbeat note, look at the impact that the Great Plague in Europe had. You know, that brought the Renaissance. So that was actually positive. Look at the Great Flu epidemic, the Spanish flu, at the beginning of the 20th century, and that led first to you know, to the Second World War, but then later on to you know, globalization and a new global order. So these pandemics have shifts in economies and societies, so new eras, very important. And they also act as great accelerators of trends that already had been in place prior to the pandemic. So these trends, they just speed up. We may come back and look back and say, well, you know, the COVID pandemic, that might mark the end of the analog age. So digitization really got going at that time. But, you know, be careful when you look at, you know, trends that had been in place. Don't make the mistake of linear projection. So the futures, and I will say futures, not future. There are many futures possibilities out there. They're not, you can project them linearly, but there are trends that, you know, that give a good indication where we are heading. So to put this pandemic into perspective relating to workforce development, that's, you know, trends that have been in place before. I mentioned a few as they relate to this project. So a move towards shorter term credentials, badges, often stackable, industry recognized and linked to credits. Then, for example, the introduction of it, as we already said, of advanced forms of technology in learning, like virtual reality and augmented realities, that has been a major trend. And then really increasing decentralized learning, but also in conjunction with geographically dispersed workforce and a geographically dispersed learning as well. Decentralized and geographically dispersed are not the same thing, by the way. Then also a increasing trend, you know, with major shifts in technology, you know, fourth industrial revolution, you're familiar with that probably, with that term, an increasing requirement for lifetime learning and continuous upskilling. And then something that's the last, you know, trend that is worth mentioning is there's a growing awareness of challenges accessing higher or continuous lifetime education and learning. So particularly growing numbers of disadvantaged populations are being deprived of learning opportunities. And there's an increase of what we could call, you know, a democratization of education. Now you can tie all these trends back together and relate it to the project and really get a feel for how innovative and intrinsically linked this project is to our workforce development efforts here in Nevada. So first of all, you know, Tammy and I always call it, you know, the libraries are the beacon of democratization. Democratization of education and workforce training, not just as a standalone efforts of the libraries, but also increasingly, and this project proves it, you know, in partnership with traditional educational providers such as community colleges. Libraries, you really are able to deeply reach into disadvantaged communities and of that are of the highest need of workforce development and retraining, and now more than ever as a result of the pandemic. And they offer what we could call, you know, a non-threatening engagement zone. And second, this project is not please don't regard it as a single isolated effort, but it's really an integral part of Nevada's workforce development strategy. You know, as Tammy can attest, and all, you know, state council members, we have been in close collaboration with the libraries, with the Governor's Office of Economic Development, with my office for years. And we are contributing from the Governor's Office of Economic Development on the State Council to really, drive these initiatives forwards. And I can only echo, the comment that, the LSTA funding is so important here. Thirdly, libraries, this is not like recent. We started years ago, developing responses to those trends that I mentioned. So we already refer to the Nevada Career Explorer. That started very early, so we are in the forefront of this. We're continuously building it up. So this is not done. This is an evolving work. Then introducing VR, as we heard, as a learning tool, we started early, and then also addressing industry-recognized credentials. So the dialysis technician is not the first one. We actually started, with Tammy's effort back here when she was at the Carson City Library, with the MT1 certification. That acronym stands for an entry-level certification in manufacturing. So to really sum up this project, it is really a continuation of the most recent highlight and the most recent highlight in our efforts. And I would say it constitutes really a true lighthouse project in Nevada. And, this again proves, as Senator Cortez Masto, just said in her message, it is the innovation state. So hopefully it gives you a better idea of how this fits into the broader workforce development efforts.
Now, Karsen, that was an excellent summary of workforce development. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate your perspective. I want to go back a little bit and just talk about takeaways. So now that you're more than a year into this pilot project, I want to know what the biggest takeaways are and what advice you can give others. And I want to go to Forrest and hear from Natasha and Jeff on this one.
Thanks, Julius. Really for us, I think the biggest takeaway is trying to move from why to why not. When this was brought to us, and my first response was, what? You want us to bring virtual reality into the library for training? And, I'd seen it as games and things like that, but it's really progressed to that point. And we get a lot, beginning, we got a lot of feedback from outside sources. It's like, why do you want to do that? Why don't you stick to books and videos and what libraries do? But down the road, I just see this amazing progress, all the stuff we brought in. So now when anybody brings me an opportunity or a partnership, my first thing is, why not, and how can we make it happen? So that's probably my biggest takeaway from the project.
Thank you, Natasha.
My biggest takeaway would be the firsthand experience. I would be able to assist another person who's interested in exploring dialysis technician as a career option. And I also want to say that Perla, she's a fellow student of mine, and I are the first people in Northern Nevada to experience this program. So we did experience a lot of hiccups, but we hope to get together and maybe be able to help them fix some of the hiccups. And so the program should be easier for the next round of students. And I guess my advice would be, it's a great path for someone who's currently out of work or straight out of high school. So I just hope to see more in the future.
Yeah, thanks for blazing the trail. Jeff.
Yeah, it's been a great experience, and it really, one of the things we really learned in our strategic initiatives was that you have haves and have-nots. A lot of people may have a virtual reality set at home, but there's a large part of the population who doesn't have that access, have never seen it before, and never interacted with it. And so now we're introducing that for the first time. And doing that at a younger age, talking about middle school, and getting those concepts introduced at that point really sets someone on a lifelong path to exploring their world, STEAM education, other education, going to the medical profession. That starts at that point where they wouldn't otherwise have access. And that's really the feedback we're getting. Is just amazing that we're providing that. And it also demonstrates the libraries are innovative thinking, as Forrest mentioned. We're doing things differently. It's not just a book warehouse. We're doing programs, we're doing services. And when we did a strategic plan, when we did our interviews, it was overwhelming, saying that, we need to do something about STEAM, we need to do something about maker services, and we need to help assist the Washoe County School District to enhance those STEM education so they can further their careers and help the community as well. So it's been great.
Yeah, I hate to put this plug in, but yeah, we might want to get some medical librarians as well, right?
Right, exactly.
I'm sorry for the plug. About you, any takeaways?
I'm sorry, was that, did you say that was for me, Julius?
Any takeaways for you?
Thank you, Julius. Yes, there is. And I think I just want to highlight Natasha here because Natasha and Perla are examples of giving access to Nevadans, to the dialysis tech program to Nevadans, regardless of where they are. And so Natasha right now, I recognize where it looks like she's in the library in McDermott, where Tammy and I went last year. And this is a small town, over an hour away from the clinic that Natasha drives to work in. And so the thing is being 9 hours north of CSN, until Sue launched this program and offered remote learning, Sue and her team made it possible for people like Natasha and Perla to work towards getting their dialysis tech certification and have the opportunity to really get a great job. That's going to be a good paying job. And so that's been a key takeaway, is just access. The last thing I just want to say, Julius, in addition to access, is how good of a good paying job this is, and what this means in terms of being a real career here is, so minimum wage right now in Nevada is $8.25. And so that's, imagine if someone is coming from working in fast food or take your pick, and earning $8.25. If you're say a single mom or a single dad, I mean, just all the challenges one must have trying to raise a family on $8.25 an hour. If one becomes successfully a dialysis technician through CSN's program, their average starting salary is very roughly about twice that. It's very roughly about $16 an hour, and that's the starting salary. And then there are 3 pay grades above that. So this is no longer, this is real economic power for families, and this is a real career track.
No, thank you. Absolutely. And I want to turn to Tammy here, because Tammy, as a project lead, what is your takeaway and what comes next? I'm mute, Tammy.
I'm sorry. There we go. Thank you. I have to echo what Mark just said, because this is the epitome of providing all Americans with an opportunity, because there's dignity in work. And we live in a capitalist society. So to be able to provide a pathway for people to make a living wage, it's a game changer on every level. So the number one thing, in my view, that libraries can do to assist in the recovery of all the impacts of COVID that we can't even feel yet, are to keep students learning and to keep adults earning. And when we focus for impact, we will make a difference. And what comes next? Well, Julius, I have 2 pipe dreams. So one of them is in my state. It's in my own state. And that is to build out this ecosystem to encompass the priority healthcare technician programs, as well as the other STEM occupations that are in demand in the state of Nevada. Because after I get my dialysis tech thing, then I'm actually going to go into the MT1 program, because I could get a job in a mining company and I could make a lot of money working in the mines in Humboldt County. So learning advanced manufacturing, learning those skills that pay that living wage, they're truly marketable skills, is what I want to help drive forward for every Nevadan. But then my pipe dream would be if every state library collaborated together, and if each state library developed 2 industry credentials that are nationally recognized. As Sue said earlier, once you take a national exam, you can do this job anywhere. So if every state did 2, Nevada gets dibs on the dialysis technician, and we get dibs on the MT1. But if we did our 2, and then all the other states did their 2, imagine a menu of options for every American to be able to access training to get a living wage job in a window of time of 12 to 14 weeks. I don't know how much that's going to cost, but it's not going to be in the T trillions of dollars, nor would it be in the B billions of dollars. It would have to do with the M's. And we can do this.
Oh, beautiful. I saw Maggie Farrell said, keep dreaming, dream big, Tammy, dream big. And I love it. You said you want to keep students learning and adults earning.
Right.
I love it. I love it. All right, we're gonna, I want to hear from Senator Dennis, because as a legislator, what would you like to see for this project moving forward? And what do your colleagues at the state capitol need to know about this project and hear from their constituents?
Well, I think they just need to, they need to hear from folks like Natasha, that actually, can talk about how this has been successful for her. I think just knowing what the technology is and getting legislators up to speed on what's, what it is, that it's not just a game system, it's not just that this is providing opportunities for jobs, not just in rural areas, but also in urban areas, all over the state. This can benefit all of our citizens here in Nevada, and I think anywhere else that folks are out listening today, is to make sure that your legislators know what this program can do for your state. Make sure, and if they do that, then because you can't do any of this without money. If they're going to allocate money from the state, if it's local money, make sure that your city councils or county commissions or whatever it is, make sure that they know and bring people into the library so that they can see these great things that are going on. Because I think that's the key to making sure that that people understand that libraries are knowledge centers. They're not just a place to go get a book, but that it's a place to get knowledge and to improve your career now, and using technology and giving kids an opportunity to really see what's possible for them.
No, I absolutely. And this has been such a great conversation. I want to give our participants an opportunity to ask you questions. And I have a couple of questions right before me, and I think we may go live and take a couple of live questions. So if you're ready for some questions, I'm going to go to the first one. And the first question is for Sue, and it is there financial aid available for students who want to pursue this program?
Oh, that's a perfect question. Thank you. I wanted to talk about that. Fortunately, through the library system, the one-stop shop, or WIOA organizations, are now in the library system. So there are resources for a person to access when going to the library. And so working with the one-stop shop representative allows them to be pre-assessed and qualified for funding. And that's federal money, it's free money. They will pay for everything. So that's important for the student to know. This course does not qualify for Pell or FAFSA grants because it is not a credit course. It doesn't have to be. And it does not lead to a degree. Now, to some people that may be a disadvantage, but I have to tell you, it leads to a national certification exam, again, which means you can go anywhere in the country. But not only that, when you get these jobs with either DaVita or Fresenius, dialysis companies, they have benefits. And one of the benefits is tuition reimbursement. So let's say you want to go back and become a nurse, even to become a business administrator, they will fund that program for you through the tuition reimbursement opportunity that they offer. So that's very exciting. And if you don't choose to go any further and you choose to be a preceptor within the clinic, to continue to do dialysis runs and what have you, that's okay too. They have wonderful benefits like retirement plans, sick leave, vacation. There's also overtime opportunities. I mean, it's just unlimited. And not only that, they will train people who are inclined to be more biomedical experts. They will train them to be biomedical technicians.
Okay. Thank you, Sue. The next question, I guess we can go to Todd or Forrest or Jeff for this one. How much does it cost for a public library to acquire and maintain the equipment necessary to offer this?
Wow, I'm going to jump in, Julius, and say, how much does it cost if we don't carry our libraries forward to the next generation, right? Really, this is consumer grade equipment. I mean, you can buy it on Amazon, a couple $100. You can go into the local Best Buy store and go carry it forward. With the support of the state library and LSTA dollars, though, and more importantly, with this program, we're able to carry it forward. I wanted to amplify what Sue was saying when she was mentioning WIOA funds. Here in the state of Nevada, this program is not only put together, but correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, those participants are all being paid for out of workforce innovation funds right now. So it isn't exactly like they're having to foot the bill right up front anyway. If they did, they could get it reimbursed, presumably, if they go to DaVita. So they're not having to buy the equipment because, again, that's what libraries do. We buy stuff and we share it with a lot of people because all the ships in the harbor rise when we do that. So I'm going to climb back down off my soapbox, Julius, but thanks for asking.
No, thanks. Forrest or Jeff, did you want to jump in as well?
And are you talking about the equipment that we have for these programs? And I can tell you, and in great respect to the state library, LSTA, personally for our library district, because we're probably one of the lower funded library districts in the state, when we go after technology, things like that, almost all of our technology that we received and all of the virtual reality has been through grant funding that we've received. So, and in our library district, we're very, very active in looking for grant funding. And the more that we align ourselves with workforce and, you know, how we can use that to help the community, the better we are at obtaining grants and justifying the funding for that technology. And we plan to continue that process going forward.
All right.
Julius?
Yes.
Can I just add a little bit of information? This really does speak to Senator Dennis's work in 2017 when the Nevada State Library received $500,000 of one-shot money and $22,000, 22,000 of the 500,000 went to launch this project. And but for the generosity of the vendors involved, XR Libraries, Lifelike, NC Lab, and the Headed 2, who puts up the Nevada Career Explorer, all of the sweat equity that's been invested by the public and the private partners has really made this possible. And then it was Governor Sisolak who augmented the Nevada State Library's budget by $420,000 in the last legislative session. And the priority for that was to help drive forward access to databases that contain 3D STEM collections, as well as supporting the initial pilot libraries and growing that out to 22 libraries and 3 bookmobiles that are now a part of this ecosystem in the state of Nevada. So Tod Colegrove likes to talk about getting nickels out of the carpet. And it really has been very little money and the generosity of the private partners that have been involved.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, so we're going to do something we haven't done on this tour, and we're going to take a live question. So we have a live question from Gerald. Are we ready?
I didn't know I had a question, but yeah, I'll ask a question. What are we doing to go further, to go further with this program, and how are we going to get it to that next level?
All right, Tammy, you want to take a shot at that one?
Right. Well, currently I'm working with the leadership from the College of Southern Nevada to move the proof of the concept. Sue mentioned that the most difficult part of the textbook was selected to develop in using these 3D objects, as well as, don't forget, we have what we call computational thinking modules embedded in all of that, and that sounds super fancy, but it's essentially very strategically directed quiz pairs that are connected to the virtual reality diagrams, where a person can be in the 3D version of the textbook. And we had an incredible partnership with the textbook publishers as well. So in a lot of ways, it is truly a 3D version of the textbooks, but then also embedded within it are these quiz pairs. So you could be in it and you're looking at a concept like when I was talking about understanding how the blood cells get cleaned, then I get quizzed by NC Lab live in the thing to make sure that I understand this science concept. So the idea moving forward and how do we continue to build out this program to answer the caller's question is to finish the textbook, because there are a couple more chapters that deal with the importance of water, right, Natasha? See, she's shaking her head. I know what I'm talking about. It's the importance of water and how it relates to the science of the process. So we need to build those pieces out so that we have a complete package program, and then it's ready to go and pivot to online instruction. And then when Sue was talking about part of the supplies for the students include shoes and a stethoscope, guess what? They could get one of these too. It goes with the supply kit, and then we have students turnkey ready to do this program online at home, get her done.
Right. And some of these students still need computers.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, okay?
But they're checking those out from the library.
Well, in some cases, and in some cases, monies out there are actually buying them for them. Isn't that exciting?
That brings me to the next question that we have from one of our participants. How do libraries do outreach to those who are most in need of accessing this type of program? How do you address the digital divide to expand access to this? Who wants to jump in here?
We have, that's a really big project that we're working on. North Las Vegas specifically is the largest majority city in the state. And we have the largest number of Title I schools surrounding our downtown area. And we addressed this problem specifically when the schools closed down, we got hit with COVID, and we realized that there's large amounts of families that do not have internet access, do not have technology. One thing I'm proud to announce is we have been working very hard. We fought very hard. North Las Vegas, along with Henderson, Boulder City, didn't receive originally any of the CARES dollars that went to the cities. And so we've had to fight really hard. The county has given us some of those funds that we're still working on. But with the funds that we've received, we're putting 83% of those dollars back into the help the community. And through discussions that the library had and how so many of our students do not have internet access, I'm really excited to announce that we're using a portion of that funding that the city received, and we're able to provide up to 20,000 households with internet access in their homes, low-income families, through the end of December 31st, and then we're going to be looking at ways to go from there. So we realize that the libraries can only do so much. Libraries check out hotspots; they're very expensive. It has to be a community-wide solution, and the libraries want to be a part of that, and and we can help, but the schools are going to have to get involved, private industry, and find ways. We're working with Cox, their Connect to Compete program. And so that's one way we're working on that in other areas, but we know that is limited, and this is going to be a long-term problem that we're going to have to address.
Thanks, Forrest. Anybody else want to add to that?
Julius, I'm going to call out my colleague and true Nevada State librarian, Sara Jones, out for the work that she's doing in Marin and that we're trying to steal here in Carson, where the city and the library and the school district are working hand in glove to build out Wi-Fi in a way that we're trying to get it available, either walk in, drive in, or flat out blanket the area so that we can reach at least 80% of the community that's at risk that we're talking about. But Sara, you've eaten more salt than I've eaten rice when it comes to that. So I'll step out of the way after having thrown you under the bus.
You have a lot of great sayings, Todd. Yeah, just thank you for that. What he's referring to is the just exactly as Forrest was saying, we also have communities, here in Marin, 10 miles as a crow flies to San Francisco. There's the town of San Rafael has a whole area that has no connectivity at all because the internet companies, they knew the people couldn't pay, so they didn't lay any of the groundwork. So we did a couple of things here. We were able to distribute 800 Wi-Fi hotspots, and they built a mesh network. Based on actually the county's technology network, and it's built off of a Health and Human Services building. And then, and I am no technician here, but then it spreads the whole, the Wi-Fi network throughout that whole neighborhood, and is giving some connectivity to people who have not had it. And you also, of course, and I imagine that's true in many of people listening, and Forrest too, is that there are a lot of people that are afraid of the government, and so you have to be really sensitive about what that looks like. In our big provider is Comcast. If anyone's ever had a bad bill situation, or it's even been a bad situation in the house they're living in, they can't get that free and reduced internet, and that stuff has to stop because it's crazy. And I just would say one final thing, as the person who might have 2 feet, one in California and one in Nevada, is, as I heard all this, is what a different place we would be if we had broadband connectivity everywhere and every student had VR. We would not be having these, the online discussion and the absolute agony everyone is going through. Would be totally different if our investments, and we'll go there and we'll get there, but it breaks my heart that all the deep investment to this after the last Great Recession just kind of got backburnered, and here we are again. And the anchor institutions that were defined in that, libraries, schools, and hospitals, who would have ever thought the only standing one would be hospitals? That's pretty crazy. So anyway, that's my soapbox, and thanks, Todd, for the shout out.
And this is Senator Dennis. This Senator Dennis, one of the interesting technologies on the broadband thing that I've been looking at, I happen to serve on the local public television. They're able to use digital channels that aren't currently being used to broadcast internet to go both ways. So that could be a future way that we could provide internet to families using those unused digital channels.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, Senator Dennis. I'm going to go to our next question. One of the participants asked, are the public libraries lending equipment to schools and school libraries, or are they acquiring them on their own? And I guess, Jeff, maybe you can jump in here.
Yeah, we've done a lot of outreach with the Oculus Goes and the Oculus Quests, and we've been working with the schools. So mostly it's just been doing the outreaches. So we'll go to the outreach, they'll be able to use the equipment there and getting extra equipment. The Quest and the Goes, depending on what you get, is anywhere between $200 and $300 each. We have about a $30,000 maker budget that we created, and that helps pay for different things. So we have the Goes, we have the Quests, we have the HTC Vive. We don't do the Vive on outreach except on special occasions, just because it's a bit of a setup. You have to have the computer, you have the headset, you have to map out your area to do it. When we did it at the state library, when we did the legislative day, we had that for the state, and the representatives come to take a look at that. So it's a lot more immersive, but it's not easy to take around. I would recommend the Quests. I don't think they sell the Goes anymore, but I recommend the Quests to go take around, because it has the headset and it has the hands. If you're going to do it at your branch, for instance, probably have at least 2 going, and then possibly get some of the Google Cardboard that you can use with your phone, just because you can get people backlogged. We started doing it once a week, so every library had their own 2 sets, so they can come in during that time period and explore the headsets, and then we go into the schools to do that as well. We're not as well funded as some of the libraries, so it's hard to pay for that for the schools or have that with the schools. We have a great relationship with the school librarians, so we're usually able to go out and do a program for them, get them trained, and then get a lot of the students immersed with the program. So a lot of outreach we can do. We can take it to outside events. We've taken it to all kinds. We do hundreds of outreach events a year, and everyone's really impressed with that. One caveat with the Oculus is don't leave it in the sun So make sure you keep it protected when you're not using it outside because it can damage the lens. So we learned that the hard way. But it's really great. You can really take it anywhere. So it's a great way to get introduced, get people introduced to the VR and what it looks like and what it can do. And that's kind of your first step into building that bridge to the next step.
Thank you, Jeff. We have another question. What is it like to develop the curriculum content for VR like we saw today? And maybe Mark can talk a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you, Julius. So the way that we did that is we follow the leadership of the experts, the subject matter experts. So what we did in this case, in cooperation with Sue at CSN, is we worked with Hilda, the teacher that Sue mentioned earlier. She's this amazing dialysis tech certification teacher. And so she was one of our expert advisors. We also we partner with MEI Publishing. They published the standard dialysis textbook in America. There's really not even a close second. And they were also expert advisors, and we used their content. And then they recommended one of the best dialysis technicians in the country, according in their opinion, Jim Curtis. And he was another expert advisor. Additionally, we also worked, we got a lot of feedback from Fresenius, the world's largest dialysis organization, as well as we also have cooperated with DaVita, which is huge in America. And so we had multiple expert advisors. They told us what to create and how to create it, and it was a very iterative process.
And Sarah, you want to jump in here about the content, curriculum content?
It's always the thing about unmuting. I don't have too much more to say about this because this is such a novel thing about original content, but I would just go back to what Tammy said is I think a role that CLIFA or any other library organization is let's do a revision of the two certifications and then find a platform in place for that. And it could be CLIFA or some other organization, because what we found with VR from its beginning to now is it's difficult to find it, and then it's difficult to make it available to everyone. So we're a platform for that. I think there are multiple other platforms, and we're trying to actually replicate, which is cool, watching the, Nevada do this same kind of project with Career Explorer in California. But we do have the cataloged records of wonderful STEM content. So.
All right. So I think it's about time, unfortunately, for us to wrap up. So I'm just going to say, wow, this was an incredible conversation. I can't wait to throw on those VR goggles and get a closer look. And really, I do have the VR goggles. I'm going to take a picture just so everyone knows. I'm a big fan, just so you all know. I'm a really, really big fan. One of the most amazing things about this is that the ticket to this potentially life-changing experience is just a library card. How about that? Yet another reminder that library cards are powerful tools, passports to education, enrichment, and opportunity. It's fitting that Wonder Woman is the honorary chair of Library Card Sign-Up Month in September. So it's true. So I look forward to visiting you in Nevada in person sometime soon. I have friends there. I have new friends now, so I'm coming, believe me, real soon. In addition to making the rounds of libraries, I'm going to use my library card to visit the National Auto Museum in Reno. We talked about that a little offline, but I'm going to do it. You better believe it. Yes. In the meantime, I want to thank everyone on this panel for a fascinating discussion. I learned a lot. I'm quite certain that our viewers did as well. So thank you to Mark Anderson, Tod Colegrove, Karsen Heise, Sue Holligan-Folds, Sara Jones, Forrest Lewis, Jeff Scott, Tammy Westergard, and Natasha Dackota York. Special thanks to Senator Dennis for being a champion of libraries and of cutting-edge learning opportunities for Nevada's workforce. Thanks also to Representative Titus and Senator Cortez Masto for their thoughtful messages. So thank you all. At the top, I gave a quick shout out. I'm going to give a more formal shout out. I have to give a shout out to my colleague and friend. I hope she's still on, and ALA treasurer, Maggie Farrell, at the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. Hey, Maggie. And I want to thank the Arizona State Library. I want to thank the Nevada State Library and the Library Association for partnership and co-hosting this program and bringing together this amazing panel. What a great library ecosystem you have. And I want you to know that ALA appreciates and supports Nevada librarians and all the work that Nevada library community is doing to build stronger and more just communities. Okay, friends. Tomorrow is the final day of the Holding Space Tour. And we're going to do a double header. So I can tell you that we were at the Library of Congress in DC, and now we're in Nevada, and we're going to be tomorrow. Join us at 2:30 p.m. Central for a visit to the Oakland Public Library to hear about their community-centric services for children and families, and for a visit with Oakland's Youth Poet Laureates. Then, through the magical virtual travel, I may put on my Oculus Quest for that, we will be having a closing celebration at the Hawaii State Library at 4 p.m. So I am going to say to you, please visit